College football is back, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a fresh take on college football betting, focused on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. I'm JY. This is my good friend Steve. And in this episode, we're going to do a brief summary of the Fresno State game as they played Eastern Washington here this past weekend. And wow, it was quite a surprise and quite an almost huge upset.
Who had this game going to overtime?
Oh my goodness gracious, or even close.
You're right.
I mean, and we got a little razzle dazzle on our last Fresno State versus Purdue. We did an episode on that. Some people were asking why we had it booked as a huge upset, and I said, maybe not huge, but it was an upset. The line was 4.5, but this would have been a huge upset if Fresno didn't, win it here in the end. But so here's where we're at. It was sellout at Bulldog Stadium, over 41,000 people in attendance. It looked like a great atmosphere. They were ready to go. They wanted to see their Bulldogs come in and just steamroll the Eagles, get them the heck out of there. And yikes, that's not what happened. So what I want to do is, go over some team stats first,
okay,
and then maybe talk about why.
Okay,
did it happen the way it happened? So
let's do it.
Team stats first. Total yards, and you're going to see they're pretty similar. Unsurprising, double overtime game that's tied up. Total yards: Fresno 364, the Eagles 366. It's almost identical. Turnovers: 2 for the Eagles, 1 for the Bulldogs. So the defense was getting some turnovers. At the very ended the game with a turnover on that interception. First downs: 21 for the Bulldogs, 22 for the Eagles. Time of possession: 29 minutes for Fresno, 31 minutes for the Eagles. So, again, this is just right down the line when you're looking at some of these overall stats.
Very even game.
50-50.
Yep.
Now, the one part I want to bring up, and I'm going to bring it up again later as maybe why did this happen? Third down conversions. The Eagles, 7 of 18. Not too bad. The Bulldogs, 4 of 15. Ooh. That's not good.
No.
And they get into third and longs. Obviously, when you're not creating, you're not making third downs, you go back and say, okay, well, what are we getting into here? So their first and second downs aren't helping them out here with their third down rating at 4 and 15. And then fourth downs, the Eagles were actually 3 and 5 on fourth down, and the Bulldogs were 1 and 1. They went for it once and they got it. So early on in the game, I was not able to watch all of this game, but they're up 14-3. And you're thinking, okay, it's so a little ugly, but it's where we need it to be, 14-3. After they went up 14-3, the Bulldogs, there were 7 consecutive punts in the game.
Wow.
4 of those were 3 and outs.
Sounds like we missed an exciting game.
That's not very exciting at that point, right? So there was only one drive over 5 plays. One drive out of the 7 that was over 5 plays. So a little rough there. Got into a punt fest. So let's talk about a little bit why did this happen. And nobody really knows why, but there's a couple different opinions. So I'm going to just throw some things out there. The first one that a lot of people would say is, hey, it's a trap game, right? Hey, they just came from Purdue. They won a big game out there, whether you want to call it an upset or not, or a huge upset, or they meant to win it, whatever. Really big game against a Big Ten team on the road.
Yep.
Boom, they get the dub.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So, is this a trap game? Because next week, they're going to have a tough game again. So, I'm sure they were not too worried about this Eastern Washington team. And how much did that come into play? Nobody really knows. You hope that it isn't an issue, but it easily could have been. But let's look at what happened in the game that where the struggles really occurred. Offense was pretty rough all night. The defense played fairly well overall. They did have those 2 turnovers. They had a fumble recovery. They had the interception there to end the game in the double OT. So I'm not going to focus too much on the defense. They did okay. But Mikey Keene, as well as, when we touted him in the Purdue game, as well as he looked, he was as equally bad this game. or not equally bad, but on the opposite side of how good he looked this game. Just missing some open receivers. Just looked like he had an off night. Like, I don't think that was a true indication of what he is. I think you saw what he is in the Purdue game. So maybe was it a trap game just for Keene? Maybe. But he did have a rough night. Now, that being said, he did have a lot of pressure on him, too. They were stacking the box, the Eagles were, and just the line was struggling a little bit with that, and so he didn't have great protection. So I don't want to put all of this on the quarterback, missing wide open guys all the time. Obviously the O-line has to be protecting your quarterback there. So just it seems like a lot of what occurred was just offensive line, getting pressure on Mickey, and then him just not being able to hit some receivers there. Again, the third down conversions that we talked about, if you're into third and longs all the time consistently, that's hard to overcome, especially when you don't have your throwing game isn't on because your quarterback's getting rushed. They're stacking it in there. So almost like Eastern Washington, while it was an off game for the Bulldogs, they actually played a pretty decent game and were able to contain the Bulldogs as best they could, which then got them into overtime. And we saw what happened with Wyoming and Texas Tech. You get into overtime, anything can happen.
Yep.
So I think it's probably a combination of all of that. The not to take anything away from the Eastern Washington team, their offense did play well. Obviously, they scored the points they need to stay there with them. And specifically after they were down 14-3, they had some really nice touchdown drives there in the second half to push this to overtime.
Right.
Now, Fresno did miss a field goal right there at the end of regulation. 35 yards to end the game in front of your fans. 7 seconds left. Stick that sucker through the uprights. You walk off at close, but a winner.
Yep.
And we miss it, and we're in the double OT. So I'm not going to go through the overtime here. Obviously, Fresno pulled it off. I wanted to more focus on why was this game even a double OT game.
Yeah.
And I think trap game probably comes into play a little bit. Certainly the way they were able to get to Mickey, his bit of an off game, and then just the third down conversion issue. All of that, you put that together, and you get a close game with a team that, the line was 28.5. If you saw our picks episode, I took Fresno at minus 28.5. I thought they were going to have an offensive explosion. The defense was going to be able to control much offense from the Eagles game, and it just didn't happen. So I'm not overly concerned about the Bulldogs here. They got out of it. They got their win. They maybe learned their lesson a little bit. We got to show up no matter who the opponent is.
Absolutely.
So it could be actually potentially a good thing for them this season moving forward, is to go through that adversity and come out with a W, because all that matters here is that they won.
Absolutely.
And they did. But definitely was surprising to see what that outcome was. So anyway, that's me kind of going through it. Any thoughts that you have on that, Steve?
Well, a couple thoughts. Just doing some quick math based on what you said.
Yeah.
It sounds like the third down conversion rate was less than 30%.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. Like it's hard to win a game at all,
right,
when you're that bad on third down,
right.
And as far as Keene, he was barely over 50% completion rate.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably did lead into it. I will just say, and I said this in our week 2 reaction video, we got to remember these are college kids.
Yes.
These things happen. These kids are, 20, 21 years old, and yeah, technically they're legal adults, but they're college kids.
Sure.
Like, they're living on that up and down. I'm sure after that win at Purdue, they went back on campus. They were the big men on campus.
For sure. Right.
Parties, living the life, everything.
As they should.
As they should, yeah.
Again,
if you're a college football player, you just want a great game, be excited.
Yeah.
But that can have an effect from week to week. And so, the trap game is kind of a cliche type thing. But
right.
That's the kind of scenario that leads to that trap game.
Right.
Is they're coming off of a big win. Maybe they took Eastern Washington a little, not seriously enough.
Yeah.
And they're going
can you blame them?
Yeah, exactly. But I will say,
I guess I could have blamed them if they would have lost the freaking game.
Yes,
but
yeah. But I will say, I think Fresno State, I think they're still, I'm still relatively high on them for this year. And I think this is a team we're going to focus on quite a bit. We're going to watch closely and continue to have feedback and reaction on their games this year. So I'm excited to watch to see what they did. It sucks that they didn't hit for us this week, but they got the dub, like you said.
Hey, I'm the Mountain West guy, and as long as my Mountain West teams are winning, I'm a happy guy. So,
like you said, they sold out the stadium.
Yep.
Great atmosphere, great crowd.
Yep.
So I'm excited about to see them going forward, and that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, and keep bringing it out there. You know, you fans out there in Fresno.
Yeah,
we're on
love
the
our Fresno State fans.
other side of the country. A little hard for us to get there, or I'd probably be out there.
Yeah.
And please drop us some comments. I know the last reaction video that we had for the Fresno Purdue game got some really good comments from Fresno fans. So we'd love to hear from you. You know, if you agree with some of what we're saying, if you saw something else, please let us know. You know, because we're here to learn too. I'd love to hear, you know, anybody that was in attendance, the vibes that you got from being there. So please drop us some comments. We'd love to hear from you. So yeah, I just want to remind you that we'll be coming out with our Week 3 picks episode here coming up shortly. We also are going to drop another expansion episode here very soon as well.
Some important updates.
A lot going on. You're Mountain West people, so you know I know your ears are kind of listening to see what's going on with the Pac-12 and OSU and Wazoo and everything. So we're going to be doing another episode on that.
Yep.
So check out for that to drop. And that'll do it here. So I appreciate you watching in, and we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.